everybody, and welcome to Two Canadians Football Podcast. I'm your host, Matty P, with my co-host,
C-Money, Chris Miller.
And we are here to bring you episode 2 of our podcast show.
Let's do it.
So let's get on with the news. Recent news, recent trade. Baker Mayfield, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, has been traded to Carolina Panthers.
About time.
In exchange for 3 picks. But now you have Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold fighting, I imagine, for that number 1 starting job in Carolina.
The pride of the 2018 quarterback class.
So how does this this can affect, fantasy in many ways, right? So, but we'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment.
For sure.
In other news, we have Deshaun Watson facing a full season sentence.
Lengthy suspension, definitely on the horizon, I would say.
After signing a monster, what was it, 240?
It was reported 250 initially, but I think now I'm seeing 230 in most places that I read about it.
So first season for Deshaun Watson is, it could be in shambles, but so draft accordingly, all you footballers out there.
Yeah, definitely. If you're doing redraft, you're probably just not even taking him this year, I would guess.
So yeah, the NFL is waiting for a ruling from Judge Robinson, but the NFL they want at least a season. They want to make an example out of Mr. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean, pretty despicable what he did if all the allegations are true. So I would say that's pretty fair. And he's already missed 1 season, so keep that in mind too.
In other news, we have a legend retiring. Mr. Gronk is retiring after 12 pretty stellar seasons, I must say.
Yeah, Hall of Famer for sure. Everybody's favorite frat boy.
I guess there is an opportunity if Brady runs into some passing trouble to get his old friend to come back mid-season, maybe.
Yeah, I guess I could see something like that happening if there's some injuries to receivers and, Gronk not having to go to training camp or go through the early rigors of an NFL season. That would make sense for him to come back riding on his white horse to save the day.
So right now he's retired. I wonder if he's worth a drop now on your dynasty teams.
Oh, I wouldn't even draft him until I don't know.
But for the teams that have already have him on there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you already have him there, I guess, whatever, you could hold him just to see with hopes. But, I mean, if you already I guess you probably hold him because he's probably your best tight end option if you have him already. So, hold him, obviously draft another, but yeah, I wouldn't be starting and taking him at any point.
Yeah, so maybe he's worth a drop. It's something definitely to think about. Maybe there's a better player on the wire that you could immediately drop him for. So make sure you guys check your Dynasty waiver wire. In the next segment, it's called Fantasy Fallout. And we are going to be talking about players that may have been traded or moved or signed and are coming to a new team, and we're going to talk about their worth and their projections.
How it affects the new landing spot, the players around them, and then their old team where they're leaving, the hole it may have left and opportunities there.
So for the first guy on my list, it's, we're all wondering about this. Devante Adams, entering his 9th season. Last year finished as wide receiver 3 in half-point PPR. 169 targets in 16 games, 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns. Traded to the Vegas Raiders. I have Devante Adams, still probably finishing top 5 wide receiver this year and worth a draft pick for sure. Redraft, dynasty, I still feel like you should get him early because he's going to provide that value, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I would say he's a top 5 receiver without a doubt as well this season. Carr is a bit of a downgrade at quarterback compared to Rodgers, but it's not horrible, right? And Carr has been known to fixate on a single player like Darren Waller and just pump targets their way. So it would stand to reason that Devante Adams could see a similar type of production because of that. Although I do think that Waller and Devante may cannibalize each other's touches a little bit. I could see games where it's just all Devante, and I could see games that it's just all Waller, and it just depends how they're playing. And then you throw Hunter Renfrow in there too. Like he gets a lot of targets, and he's a good player. So I think that offense overall should be really well-rounded and tough to defend this year. And they're in a tough division, so they're going to need all the points they can get.
Yeah, Devante Adams helped me win a dynasty league last year, so I owe him all the props. If you're listening, Mr. Adams, thank you.
Yeah, he helped me win my championship as well, so thanks a lot, bro. Thanks, bro. Okay, so, do we want to talk about the fallout that's going to leave in Green Bay? Because, that hole that creates a lot of opportunity for somebody, right? And I think, for me personally, I think that this downgrades Aaron Rodgers. This downgrades their offense as a whole. Although I do think that they're transitioning to more of a run-first offense. That's how they want to play, tough defense and running the ball. And then they have a very good quarterback to help execute the offense the rest of the time when they do have to go downfield or pass it. It makes it easier on Rodgers as well because he's doing shouldering less of the load. So the only issue is who's replacing Adams, and I don't think there really is a very clear-cut answer. They brought in Sammy Watkins, they drafted Christian Watson, and they still got Alan Lazard, and I don't really know. They did draft what's his name last year? Amari Rodgers, there it is. He didn't do much of anything last year, even though they did spend a reasonable pick on him. So I don't know. I just think the ball is going to get spread around, but I really do think it's going to be the Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon show with just a smattering of passing, and we're just going to have to stay tuned to see who kind of ends up being that de facto number one.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. They'll probably feed Aaron Jones even more. He's probably only there another year or two, so why not get the most out of what Aaron Jones does best, and that's probably catching balls and just being nimble and quick. They did draft 2 other wide receivers, Dubes and I can't remember the other name, but I believe he is a 7th round pick.
I was gonna say later picks. Yeah, neither of those are projected to do much. I mean, it's a team to pay attention to, someone to watch, because Aaron Rodgers is still a very good quarterback. So whoever ends up getting the heavy routes run and all that definitely will be worth rostering. Our next one here, let's go talk about Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill from Kansas City over to the Dolphins. I'll talk about the fallout in Kansas City first. I think that it's a huge hole for Kansas City to fill. Obviously, Travis Kelce is going to still get his, and he's going to be a monster reception hog target, number 1 target for sure for Patrick Mahomes this upcoming season. But then Tyreek leaves, Demarcus Ware leaves, Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle. So the only one really that's left that Mahomes is familiar with is Mecole Hardman. He has been given opportunities in the past in this offense, and he hasn't really done anything consistent with his opportunities. So I'm not super high on Hardman being the lone kind of remaining key player in the wide receiver core. They picked up Marcus Valdez-Scantling. They drafted rookie Sky Moore. And I think between the two, and then they also required Juju on a 1-year deal. To me, it's a little bit hard to say. I think Juju has a chance to be the number one, but they paid Valdez-Scantling quite a bit more to be there. So I have a feeling he may end up being kind of the go-to. But, money in the end does not dictate playmaking ability on the field. So we're going to have to see how things pan out. I do think it's going to be hard to pick one guy to guard as their number one. So you're just going to see Mahomes kind of throw it around the yard a little bit more, spread the ball around, and it'll be hard to cover everyone, right? And as far as the Dolphins go, I'll let you handle the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think Juju could be in line for a very good 6th season of his young career. So on the Miami Dolphins side, the fallout from this trade is if you're a Waddle holder like me, I have Waddle in a keeper league. It's full PPR, so I think I still am going to keep Waddle. 1 point for every catch. And now that Tyreek is on the team there, it might be just as easy for Waddle to separate from his competition because maybe you got a double team Tyreek now, right? So as a Waddle holder, I'm not too worried. As a Gesicki holder, if you're holding Gesicki in Dynasty, maybe you might want to think of getting another tight end, but I think Tyreek Hill and Waddle can thrive, and they also have Cedric Wilson that they signed, played for the Cowboys last year, and was efficient as far as non-fantasy would go. I watched what he did with the Cowboys there, so they got a lot of weapons there now. And yeah, they got a hell of a lot of running backs there. Who will emerge as the number one? Good question, and we've kind of wondered about that with Miami for the last 4 or 5 years anyway. I see Tyreek Hill maybe finishing like just inside the top 10. Waddle maybe top 12 at the end of the year, wide receiver. Tyreek Hill had 1,200 yards last year. He had 159 targets, so I don't know if he'll see that many targets again with Waddle, but you never know. Tua might just be, the plan might just be whipping the ball.
Yeah, I could definitely see them throwing a lot. Short, intermediate. Both those guys are really good after the catch, yards after catch guys. Tyreek, of course, is great downfield as well, but I don't think Tua has quite the arm that Mahomes does. So you probably won't see as many of those deep bombs to Tyreek, but he's still deadly in the short passing game, taking it for a long touchdown. Those guys are going to be good. I think Tyreek going to that team raises all the Dolphins' profiles rather than hurting anyone in particular. Maybe Gesicki, but he is still going to be a big target when they get red zone looks, so he might get your touchdowns here and there. But, I think in between the 20s, it's going to be Tyreek and Waddle just eating it up. And then Chase Edmonds out of the backfield as well, or Mostert. They're both really good players as well. So I would say the Dolphins are looking up for sure with this move.
On to the next one here, and we have Russell Wilson, traded to the Denver Broncos, teaming up with Elway, a fellow quarterback himself. Russell Wilson played 14 games last year, 248 points, finished as the QB number 16.
Yeah, great move for Denver. He was injured, though, for a major, 3 or 4 weeks at least. And then when he did come back, you could tell he was not the same player. Probably should have stayed out longer.
His weapons in Seattle were Lockett and DK Metcalf, the beneficiaries
There you
beneficiaries of Russell Wilson letting it cook.
Yeah.
The team let him cook, and if you had Lockett and Metcalf the last few years, well, actually, let's just talk about right now. If you have either of those guys right now, you're kind of scratching your head now.
Yeah. Panic.
Now it's a combination of Geno-Smith and Drew Lock.
Yeah, that does nothing for me. I have devalued both those players immensely, especially in redraft. In Dynasty, maybe you hold because you know that this is only going to be a 1 year, more than likely a 1 year thing with Geno-Smith or Drew Lock. Or, they trade for Garoppolo before the season starts? Who knows? That would be that would put things kind of back a little bit, although I still don't think that's as good as what they could do if they just hold off and suck for a year and then draft one of the quarterbacks in the next draft, which would then put those guys back up again as, potential candidates for really good wide receivers. So Dynasty, I wouldn't fade them quite as hard as I would redraft. I wouldn't touch.
Yeah, if I'm a Lockett holder in Dynasty, I'm just holding right now. I doubt anybody wants to take that trade, but you can explore your opportunities. If I was a DK Metcalf holder in Dynasty, I would just hold because there's talk of Seattle not even signing him. He's going to be looking for a nice deal soon, especially after Tyreek Hill got paid, Christian Kirk got paid, Devante Adams. Like, he's going to want something 20 mil plus, and he deserves it.
Easy. Yeah, easy 20. I would say even 25-ish. Or by next year, who knows? Next year, maybe it's 30 plus. The money just keeps growing astronomically. It's crazy.
AJ Brown just got paid, right? So yeah, he's actually, DK Metcalf's numbers are very comparable to AJ Brown. I think it's the same class as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, those guys are and they're definitely the same class of players too. They're both really good receivers, so worth the money.
As for the fallout on Denver, it's not really a fallout. It's more of a trend upwards.
Yeah, I think Russell Wilson absolutely elevates the profile for every single player on that offense. This is going to be. I'm even kind of higher on taking some of those third or fourth receivers from this offense now in case of injury to Sutton or Judy. But Sutton or Judy are obviously the two that you want. Those are really good players, and they're going to thrive with Wilson at the helm. They haven't had a quarterback like this in Denver since Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning was on the downside, so he wasn't probably as good as, well, I guess you could say Russ is on the downside as well, but he's still young enough that he's got plenty of years left, and I think they're in for a big year. That's just another team in that AFC West that's going to be putting up points and battling for positioning.
To put things into perspective, Russell Wilson, I believe, is only 33, and Tom Brady's what? Turning 44?
Yeah, I don't think he lasts as long as Tom, but yeah, he's still a young guy by quarterback standards.
I actually have Russell Wilson on my dynasty winning team from last year. Aaron Rodgers did the most of the work on that squad, but Russell Wilson was there when I needed a touchdown. He was all right, but I do think this revitalizes his career.
Yes, I agree.
And don't things travel particularly farther in Denver?
Yeah, right, the thin air. So he can air it out an extra 5 yards or so.
Something tells me that Elway is going to let Russ cook in Denver.
I agree.
And I'm actually, as of just a football fan, I'm excited to see that. So if you have Judy, if you have Cortland Sutton, if you have Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, even KJ Hamler, Albert O, the tight end, you can make a case for just. You want to walk away from any draft with at least one of these pieces.
With someone, yeah, definitely. The Alberto, that's a good call too. Russ does utilize the tight end position, so he will get some for sure. All right, so next let's go to the fallout from the Amari Cooper deal. So I'll hit on Dallas, I guess. So this creates in my opinion, a huge opportunity for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is just he's gonna be the number one target there, and that's with a bullet. He's just gonna get fed tons and tons of passes. I definitely see him as being the biggest beneficiary from this. Dak may suffer a little bit because he's going to lose a good target, and Michael Gallup won't be back at the start of the season, so he's going to be missing a couple receivers from that really strong offense from a year ago. They did draft one receiver, Tolbert, and then Dalton Schultz is going to have to step up. Although at this point, I think he's still yet to re-sign. They're kind of in contract talks, last I heard, and they're not yet come to an agreement. So I think when that happens, though, it will happen eventually. It just whatever, tactics. They will have a good offense. Like, the offense is still going to be good. And they're a good team overall for that. They play in a weak division, although Philly's a lot better this year. But Washington and Giants, they both, the season hasn't started yet. There's still hope for both those teams. But I think Dallas' defense especially is really strong, and they'll keep them in games. But I think overall the Dallas offense won't be quite as powerful as it was when Cooper was there. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. But then Cleveland is now gained a sweet weapon. So you want to hit on Cleveland?
I want to hit on Dallas just before we go to the Cleveland side. Amari Cooper played 15 games last year, finished as the wide receiver 27 in half PPR. 8 touchdowns are vacated now that he's gone. So maybe that opens up for the rookie Jalen Tolbert. Maybe a few more TDs for Pollard and Zeke. And like you said, there's got to be maybe a third wide receiver, or someone from the practice squad, or someone steps up there to fill in those 104 targets there.
Yeah, and Gallup does come back. Like, he will be back. It just won't be to start the season, it sounds like. But that's true. Yeah, but eventually he will be back, and that'll help big time. He's a good player. Yeah,
so if you're a Gallup holder, keep him on your IR if he's available for that. Go out and draft that rookie wide receiver, and maybe snag Zeke, in the 3rd or 4th round if he's available. I've been seeing in mocks. And
yeah, he's been going pretty high this year.
As far as the Cleveland Browns side, they get their number one receiver. They've been lacking a number one receiver since
OBJ, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess you could say maybe Jarvis Landry was 1A to Odell's 1B there, but Landry is gone to the Saints, so Amari immediately fills that void that Landry occupied there. And yeah, Amari Cooper, he's entering his 8th season. I still think he's got some, 1 or 2 good years left, and he should provide some offense to go with Jacoby Brissett there. He'll be throwing the ball, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm staying away from that Browns offense for this season in redraft. It's going to be tough to watch without Deshaun Watson, because that's kind of the centerpiece that is going to make the whole thing work. So this year, not very interested in Amari Cooper, but the following season, when I imagine Deshaun Watson is back, this is purely speculation, but I would imagine once he's back, that is going to be a really good connection. And they also have Bell, the rookie that they drafted, that is going to have a year to kind of grow in the NFL and, learn the ins and outs. So when Deshaun comes back, he'll be able to hit the ground running with a couple good receivers. But until that time, it's going to be a run. And even when Deshaun does come back, Kevin Stefanski loves to run the ball. So Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, those guys are going to be especially this season, they're going to be the main cogs in that Cleveland offense.
Brace yourselves, Browns fans. Just hold on.
Especially for that first game when you get to play Baker in the rematch or the redemption game.
Yes.
Baker versus the Browns.
Yes.
Game 1.
Yes. Cleveland is actually paying Baker Mayfield that game to try and beat them.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
As for the next one we will talk about here, his name is Marquise Browm, a.k.a. Hollywood Brown. Played 16 games last year for Baltimore. He had 146 targets for 180 fantasy points. He finished as the wide receiver 23. He eclipsed 1,000 yards for the first time in his young career, and he had 6 touchdowns. Now entering his 4th season, he will be with the Arizona Cardinals. And if you have Kyler on your squad, you're kind of happy because you've just lost Hopkins for, I think, 6 games. You still have Ertz there. You drafted a tight end, Trey McBride, highly touted. You still have Connor. Rondale Moore looks to have a maybe more increased role with those Hopkins targets gone. Christian Kirk gone, so another 100 targets roughly.
Yeah, lots of turnover there. And then they still have AJ Green as well.
Yeah, AJ Green's there for one more year.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. He's starting to show his age, I think, but they've got the weapons to replace him. So Rondale Moore, Marquise Brown, and then when Hopkins comes back after his suspension, that's going to be an offense to watch for sure. Kyler Murray is a very good quarterback as long as he's not dinged up. I think once he gets dinged up, he's less effective when he can't run around back there the way he does. But I think for Marquise Brown, like for him exclusively, like that, this is a great move. Arrow hugely up compared to what he got to do in Baltimore, because Baltimore, let's face it, it's run, and then occasional pass to Mark Andrews or Marquise Brown, the deep shot to Marquise Brown. But Lamar is not the passing quarterback that Kyler Murray is, and this is going to be hugely beneficial to him. So I think this is for him that this is going to be a huge move.
Yeah, Marquise Brown is entering his 4th season, and his arrow is ticking up. I actually have him on a dynasty squad already, so I like this trade for his value, and I'm holding him.
As far as the Baltimore end of things, this is huge for Mark Andrews because now he is almost exclusively the main target, even more so. It may suck because he's going to get even more coverage, so it may be harder to throw it to him, but now Rashad Bateman has to step up because there is nobody else in that receiver core that is even kind of a name. I mean, sure, maybe they'll have someone step up, try to take that mantle from Adam Thielen as somebody that's just an unheard of player that becomes great. But in that offense, I just don't see it. I think it's going to be Rashad Bateman, Andrews, or bust, and then run. Luckily this year, all their running backs aren't hurt yet, so we still got Dobbins, Gus Edwards, all the usual suspects back. Lamar. Lamar's going to run it like crazy. He's in a contract year, and he's going to want to play really well, which is probably why he was so disappointed to lose his top receiver in his contract year. But maybe that's Baltimore's way of keeping his contract down. I don't know. I just think overall that their offense is definitely a little bit arrowed down because of this move. But I am high on Bateman. I think he's going to be a good receiver, and he just needs to step up and show it at the NFL level.
Yes, if you're a Lamar Jackson holder, you're kind of scratching your head with this one. He was a friend, and I do believe they played in college together, right?
No, Kyler and Marquise Brown played together.
But friends nonetheless.
Yeah.
So if you're a Lamar Jackson holder like me, you're just hoping Mark Andrews stays healthy and Rashad Bateman takes a step. You got Dobbins there. He can catch the ball. I think they have Duvernay there still and James Prosh. I think that's the rookie, but so maybe someone will emerge as another target for Lamar Jackson there. But Baltimore will always be an offense to watch just for Lamar Jackson because I've been watching some tape even, and he looks to be in really good shape at the moment.
Oh yeah, he's an amazing player. He's worth the price of admission.
As far as the next guy, I have Matt Ryan on my list here regarding the fantasy fallout. And last year, he was the quarterback 20, 234 points with Atlanta. Kind of a bittersweet story, but he goes to a new team in Indianapolis Colts. You could qualify them as a contender because they probably will win that division. And he goes to Indy, where he's got Jonathan Taylor, upgraded O-line, probably better defense as well. I'm sure we can all agree with that. And he's got an emerging wide receiver in Pittman and a few other wide receivers, a couple tight ends. But I do think Matt Ryan will have a rebound year and should probably finish inside the top 20 quarterback. Yeah, I won't say easy because he is getting up there in age, but the pieces are there for him to have a bounce back year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually pretty high on Matt Ryan this year. I mean, for where he's sitting in drafts, he's a late round quarterback that you maybe take a flyer on. He's not somebody I'm drafting high, but if he's sitting there, late, and I still need a third or fourth quarterback in a 2-quarterback league, or maybe in a redraft, maybe I take a flyer on a second quarterback for him with him as second quarterback. But yeah, I just think he still has something in the tank. I just think Atlanta it was time for a rebuild, and they did the gracious thing to help a longtime good soldier, traded him to a contender or a team that at least has a shot, and allows him to kind of make use of the skills that he has left in these last couple of years of his career. Atlanta, they're obviously in rebuild mode, so I think it was a classy move by Atlanta to send him to a decent team.
So if you're a Michael Pittman holder, you're smiling with the news of Matt Ryan.
Absolutely.
And if you're Jonathan Taylor holder, you're smiling too because Matt Ryan is a little bit of an upgrade over Wentz, I would tend to think.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's just he just helps the offense run more smoothly. I think he's a good professional, consummate professional at the quarterback position. He should help just keep the offense humming along a little bit better than Wentz did this past season. And he won't throw those crazy bonehead interceptions the way that Wentz does at critical times.
As far as the Atlanta side of things, Matt Ryan leaves and in comes Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, reclamation project.
Turning into a veteran that's just dancing around the league.
Yeah, journeyman vet. I think for as far as that team goes, I think they're in rebuild mode. Getting Marcus Mariota, they were in on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, but they lost eventually. I think getting Mariota is a for this season, while they were kind of just playing it out and probably angling for a quality draft pick next year, even though they did draft a quarterback this past year. I think the draft capital alone says they're not married to him. Maybe they ride it out and see what he does, and maybe they like what they see. I do think that he has a chance to get in there sooner than later. But I'm also not totally out on Mariota either as a quarterback this season. I do think he's, he wasn't great when he was young. He was maybe drafted a little too high, second overall to Tennessee, and so the expectations were maybe a little too high early on. But I think he's now been around the league long enough. He's a veteran. He's played backup now for a while. I think now getting this starting opportunity again, I think he's going to try and really take hold, seize the opportunity, and I'm not as down on him as some people may be. There is talent there. It's just a matter of whether they can put it all together or not. I don't know if they have enough pieces on offense there to make it work. That's yet to find out. But, I mean, they got the rookie there, Drake London. They've got Kyle Pitts, of course, and then Cordarrelle Patterson in the weird running back, wide receiver kind of pseudo crossover player that they used very effectively last year, I might add. Cordarrelle Patterson is a very good player, and he just isn't built like a running back. He's 6'4", and but he moves and he's strong like a running back, and he is able to accelerate through around corners, and that's why he was so effective in kick returns way back, going back to his Vikings days. He was an electric kick returner. And I think no team, just because of his height, ever wanted to put him at running back in a full-time way, because that's just not his build. It doesn't look like he could take the pounding that you have to endure as a running back. But last season, he showed a lot as a running back, weirdly. But I think he'll be in for another good season. At least that's what Atlanta hopes for, because they don't really have much else there at the running back.
So if you have Kyle Pitts on your roster, it's a hold. He's
definitely a hold. Yeah.
Only 21. Yeah. Had a monster season, 1,000+ yards. It's a hold. If you have Kyle Pitts, if you're drafting Drake London, Mariota can fill the void, I believe.
Yeah, it's really realistically, it's probably going to just be London and Pitts as the main targets, right? So until next year when Ridley comes back from the suspension that he's on. I guess that just gives time for growth for these young players. And then when Ridley comes back, it should be actually a pretty good offense.
And there's always the option of drafting Desmond Ridder, because Atlanta took the rookie quarterback in, I can't remember which round, but...
late, yeah.
So they will be grooming Desmond Ridder as well, a late rounder in your Superflex leagues.
Yeah, definitely. And some people are pretty high on him for potential, right? So he's worth a look. So I guess last player here I have is Russell Gage, which kind of that goes right off the Atlanta play that we were just talking about. He leaves a hole there, and I mean, I guess you could say Drake London filled it, but then Ridley being suspended re-vacates it. So until next year when Ridley is back, there's a hole there. But they will be a good offense again, like once they get Ridley back. But now going to Tampa Bay, for Tampa Bay, I mean, they won't have Godwin to start the season. He's going to be recovering, and he actually might be recovering from his injury for a good portion of the early part of the season. So they lose Gronk to retirement. So now you're starting to, there's a lot of targets there that are being vacated. Who do they bring in? Apparently Russell Gage was courted by Brady. Brady wanted him there once Brady re-upped. So now you got Mike Evans, Russell Gage, and until Godwin comes back, those are basically your main targets. Cameron Brate, I don't know, he doesn't do much for me. He's had moments, there has been games. He has been a usable tight end here and there in spot starts, but overall he's not like a player you're counting on. And then Leonard Fournette, obviously stud running back, is going to be there to take handoffs. But I just think that offense is going to look a little different this year, and it may start slow without Godwin there. They may have a little bit slower start to the season.
Russell Gage entering his 5th season. Last year he played 13 games, 94 targets, 66 receptions for 770 yards and 4 touchdowns. Finished as the wide receiver number 39. I believe that if Brady's healthy, if Evans is healthy, and Gage is right there, I feel those three will feast. Maybe with a little dash of Fournette, because he'll be catching balls out of the backfield as well, I believe. And Gronk is gone, so there's Brate. I'm sure they'll get another tight end to run those 2 tight end sets. If you have Russell Gage on your roster, You are smiling because
Oh yeah, for sure.
he's going with the GOAT.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and he'll get fed.
If you have Chris Godwin like me in a keeper league, I won't be keeping him. I may try and draft him, see how far he falls, but I will be letting go of his services.
Yeah, and a keeper, I guess that's different than dynasty, right? And even for dynasty purposes, if you're drafting any of these Bucks, this is probably the last hurrah with Brady. And going forward, there's a lot of question marks there. I don't know what is going to happen to those guys after Brady leaves, because there could be fallout all over the team. Guys leaving. It already started to happen a little bit this year with Brady retiring and then deciding to come back, but I think the next time will be even more so. So Mike Evans, good for this year. Russell Gage, Mike Evans, definitely in redraft. I'm definitely interested in those players. And Tom Brady and Fournette, like those guys are all going to be good this year. But moving forward, maybe not such great long-term prospects for those guys.
For the next one, we are going to go to Christian Kirk. We can't finish this episode without mentioning Christian Kirk's new deal. What was it?
Reset the market.
Was it a 3-year for $70 million?
That was, it was the first deal.
4-year deal, $72 million.
Yeah, I mean, for a player that really hasn't put up number one type numbers yet in his career.
Kirk is entering his 5th season. He's never once eclipsed 1,000 yards. 103 targets last year, 77 catches, 169 fantasy points. Finished as the wide receiver number 26.
Yeah, he is a good player. He just kind of was buried a little bit on the depth chart in Arizona because of, the presence of Hopkins. AJ Green kind of came in there last year, and I think that was probably disappointing for Kirk because I think he was hoping to kind of be the number 2 guy, and then he got pushed down again. Although he's the slot guy, so in a way his presence was reducing the role for Rondale Moore, who I think the Arizona Cardinals secretly wanted to get in there a little bit more than they were able to because Kirk was there. So he leaves for greener pastures, probably going to be the number 1 in Jacksonville. So now Trevor Lawrence has a new target that potentially was being undervalued and underused in Arizona, and we're hoping now with the new offense that and just much more professional team overall that Peterson is going to bring in as the new head coach there. I think that's going to help big time. I'm cautiously optimistic about this Jacksonville team because they do have some pieces that I really like on an individual level. The problem is it's the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm always a little hesitant to recommend anything involving the Jags because they might have one good year where they pop for a second, and then it's back. They trade their good players for picks. They're constantly in rebuild. They remind me of the Minnesota Timberwolves of the NFL, just like never actually having any kind of playoff runs or other than the 1 year when they had a great defense a few years back. And I think their inaugural season or something with Boselli and Fred. Whatever. Yeah.
As a Christian Kirk dynasty holder myself, I invested in Kirk in the inaugural dynasty year in that league, and I'm kind of smiling now because he gets to go, and at least he has the chance to be the number 1 wide receiver with a Jacksonville team that has a young quarterback at the helm that had college success. Now that college coach is out of the way, Peterson can bring a more balanced offense, and there's some upside with drafting Kirk in the later rounds in your leagues. So maybe that is something you guys might want to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I think as a later round kind of dart throw with hopes, he's a solid selection for sure. And I think Kirk too is a for a later round option as well. He could be like one of those late round wide receiver ones that turns out good for you, or better than expected.
And to our next segment, the bold sports prediction.
Yeah, my bold sports prediction for this week, right? This week, I was going to say, with the big news coming down that Rudy Gobert is now a Minnesota Timberwolf, I think the Timberwolves are going to be a top 2 team in the West this upcoming season, and they are going to make it to the Western Conference Finals at least. That's bold. I just think he's the perfect pairing with Cat and Ant. They needed rim protection, they needed rebounding, and they got the best absolute best in the NBA at both of those two things. And they didn't give up any of their key components on that starting lineup to get him. They gave up a ton of draft picks, probably too much, but all those guys are under contract for at least 4 years. Well, Ant isn't yet, but he will be, because he's going to get as much money as you can get for a player re-signing with his team. But these guys, they're going to be a core now, moving on together for the foreseeable future, and I think it's going to be good, really good things, barring injuries. They're going to be a fun team to watch.
As for Matty P's bold sports prediction, it will have to be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers winning a 3rd championship, a 3rd in a row. Can you imagine being champs for 4 years? We live in Winnipeg, so we if they did win the 3rd for the 3rd season, but we shared those victories throughout 4 years, we got to soak it all in. So they are unbeaten at the moment. They're 4-0. They probably should be 2-2 with the way the offense has kind of sputtered out the gate. Our team did Andrew Harris dirty, and he's now on the Argos, so that definitely hurts us a little bit this season as we try and figure out what to fill the void. And for me, it's bold because it's not too often that a team wins 3 championships in a row. We just saw Tampa Bay try and do it in the NHL, and they came up short. There may only be 9 teams in the Canadian Football League, but Winnipeg actually had a drought of almost 3 decades of no championships. We have a really good defense, so that is what I think will keep us in games and keep us very competitive. So that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in to episode number 2 from Two Canadians Football Podcast. I'm your host, Matty P.
And I'm C-Money, signing out.
Hit that like, hit that subscribe if you guys want to follow our stuff.